Hey, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Hey Coach Tony. I am your host, Tony Fiorino. As you know, each week on Hey Coach Tony, we tackle the hottest topics in youth sports. And we want to hear what you have to say, so we opened up the studio lines. You can call us here at 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. I want to remind you this week that our good friends at Catamount Ski Area up in the lovely Berkshires have agreed to give us some free passes to some of our top callers and emailers. So whether you're listening in the car, at home, or even online at www.heycoachtony.com, be sure to call the studio and chime in at 855-HEY-COACH, and let's see if you can win 2 free day passes to Catamount Ski Area. Hey, before we get into the show this week, I want to take a quick moment and congratulate a team of very special 5th grade girls who call themselves the Sugar Gliders. I want to congratulate them for winning the Chappaqua Martin Luther King Invitational Tournament just last weekend. This amazing group of girls, they put on a show for the crowd, playing far, far above their age level, and they made everybody proud. Girls, you all deserve some recognition, and I am more than happy to give it to you, especially since my youngest daughter, Nikki, happens to be one of them. These girls were really something special, and it was a treat as a dad and as a coach to watch these kids do what they did. Really, really special group of girls. We're actually resuming our regular season this afternoon in Brewster, so girls, stay warm, eat well, and let's go get them at 3 o'clock. All right. Having said that, this week I want to ask you guys all a question based on something that I experienced last week at that very tournament. Now, this is something that you may or may not have experienced yourself, but what I know is that it affects coaches, parents, players, and officials alike. So hear me out and let me know what you think, because this was, quite frankly, the subject of a pretty decent argument between me and my wife all weekend. Me and Mrs. Hey Coach Tony, we were doing some battle in the car, and I want to know if I was right or if I was wrong. So give us a call in the studio at 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. Now, by the way, joining me in studio this morning,
940.
Hey, it is 940 ESPN Radio. Hey, joining me in the studio this morning to shed some light on a few different topics is our good friend Steve Kolitz. Now, if Steve's name sounds familiar at all, you may recall he was my guest on a show we did back in August called The Umpire Strikes Back. And that was basically a show about a married couple who were basically going bonkers at a 10U girls softball tournament and started verbally assaulting the umpire. Well, when the tournament umpire director stepped in to try to calm things down, what did he get for his efforts? A punch in the face. Well, that face that got punched belongs to our good friend Steve Kolitz. Steve, good morning. It's always great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming back.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Great to be here, exactly. When I saw, by the way, if anyone from the Connecticut State Highway Department is listening, get your butts out of the Dunkin' Donuts and into a plow, because they have done a garbage job of taking care of these roads today. I mean, it's ridiculous. I saw 2 cars on Route 84 spun the wrong direction. I don't know what kind of conscience we got going on at the Highway Department, but good God.
Anyway, a good friend of mine works there, so I'm not going to say anything.
Well, please say his name and give me his address, because
he knows where I live, too.
Well, in any event, I asked Steve to join me today, not so much to rehash that story about that 10U girls softball tournament, but to help me, well, shed a little light on what happened at an 11U girls basketball tournament. Turns out Steve, aside from being a terrific and well-respected baseball umpire, is a basketball ref. Happened to blow off a game to be here this morning. They probably canceled it anyway, but in any event, that was a really great thing. All right, let me get to the point here. Here's the question. And then I'm going to explain to you why I ask. I purposely did not give Steve any advance notice of this topic, because I wanted to get the gut reaction from an official who's also coached, been around youth sports, and I want your gut reaction too. The question is this: should the behavior and or performance of a coach, parent, and or official change based on the level of competitiveness that given day? Meaning, should coaches, parents, or officials act any different if you're involved in an in-town rec game, a playoff game, a tournament game, a championship game. Now, that's a tough one, and I want your calls at 855-HEY-COACH. But before we get to your calls and your emails, Steve, what's your initial reaction? Should we be acting any differently based on the level of competition that day?
Well, I guess the question I would ask is more, are you asking whether we officiate differently, or should the parents and coaches and fans react or be a coach fan or player different?
Well, all of the above. Let's start with taking the officials out of the equation, because that was a great question. But let's start with the parents and the coaches. Should we be acting any differently based on the fact that, let's say, it's a championship game?
Well, I don't think that you should be acting any different. I mean, one of the statements that I make periodically when I have parents that are going a little crazy or even coaches is, and I've said it loud enough that many people in the stands have heard it. I'll pick out the person the person who I think is the issue causer, and I'll look at him and say, "Quit embarrassing your children," especially at these younger ages. I mean, I don't care what sport it is. But it happens a lot where you look on a bench and you can tell whose parent it is over there screaming because the kid's crying on the bench or screaming over to mom or dad to shut up, you know. I've seen it many, many times. So, but as far as the coaches are concerned, I mean, the bottom line to me, parents should be there to offer encouragement to their children. They should be cheering their children. They should be doing those types of things, not embarrassing their children by the way they're acting with either other parents. I've had parents in the stands fighting. I've had to separate them.
And we saw what that got you back in August.
Yeah. Well, in a basketball game up here at the school here, I can't remember what age group it was. It was several years ago. The two parents were going at it. My partner was getting ready to administer the ball for a free throw, and I asked him to hold up because these two parents were getting close to coming to blows. They happened to be from the same team.
Same team?
Same team.
Okay.
And I looked at him, and I literally, told him, guys, enough. And I ended up having to separate them, and their parting shot for the one that I moved was, then you guys got to take control of the game. Now, I got to tell you, at this point in the game, we were probably 2 minutes into the fourth quarter, and we already had called somewhere about 30 fouls in that second half. I don't know what else we as referees can do other than call fouls, kill the ball, for violations and stuff. It comes down to a point of that's a coaching situation.
Yeah, it's not like if there are flagrant fouls. Like, I don't know if you were listening a couple of weeks ago, we had that video of that school out in Seattle.
Yes.
Wow. I mean, that you can't tell me. Those guys lost control of the game.
Absolutely.
Now, having said that, I think it's an overused term. Do I think officials need to take control of the game? Always. But I find the smart guys who came up with that term had the best of intentions, and they were right on. I think parents it's become a cliche.
Well, the biggest problem that we have as officials, I mean, there's basically for basketball, there's basically two ways to go into a game. Either jump on it quick, call it tight, or let it go, see how it goes, and rein it in if you have to. I don't agree with that second one. It's easier to call it tight and let them adjust from the get-go, and a good team with at least a decent coach will see that and say, guys, they're calling that. Don't do it.
That's what most coaches don't get, and I'm so glad to hear this come from an official, because there are officials, when you first meet me as an official, I am very loud, and I ask a lot of questions. People mistake that for arguing every call. I do it not so much to test the waters, that's the wrong term, but I will have officials, and if Joe from Brewster is listening, he's my favorite, he will at the start of the game, when we first started having games together, he would say, that is a travel. Most refs will not call it. Your girls are good. The opposing team is good. So we're actually going to tighten it up a little bit. At the younger ages, that makes sense. If the ref is going to say at the start of the game, here's what we're going to do, that I can live with, because they're letting you know. And listen, it is a travel. Now, most 5th grade or 4th grade basketball games, if you call everything, it's going to be the most boring game in the world.
And we're going to be there all day.
Yeah, but like I said, if someone says, I can see your girls can play, so we're going to do that, that's fine. So what you're saying is the parents' behavior should not change.
As long as it's encouraging.
Yeah, no. But in other words, if parents are doing what they're supposed to do, or even if they're not, in other words, they should act the same way. And I completely agree with that.
I had a parent last night. Was watching a game. My games were done. I was watching the game that was still going on because of their officials that I assigned. And the funny thing that happened was I watched the team that, by the way, won the game because of their free throw percentage. I mean, they missed, and this was I think, 6th grade game. They made probably 80% of their free throws.
6th grade girls?
Yep. This one happened to be boys.
Boys, okay.
And one of the parents through the game, it was halfway through the 4th quarter, made the comment. Now, remember, I've seen this team shoot probably 12 free throws already. Mm-hmm. Made the comments to the refs. Oh, that's the first call you've made for them. It's like, did you just come back from coffee? I mean, they've been making all their free throws. That's why they won the game, was free throws.
Well, again, you can never take anything the parents say all that seriously. But let's move to the coaches. I coach in-town rec. I coach travel. I coach in tournaments. What's your take on coaching to the situation, coaching to the environment? Do you think it's appropriate for coaches to change some of their MO based on where they are?
Yes. I think that they should, in that, I mean, a rec league or a younger group mm-hmm. is certainly more fundamentals of teaching the game. Mm-hmm. Not so much the fine points of yelling at refs, of dealing with that aspect of it. Keep in mind what their job is. Their job is teaching the sport, teaching how to play, teaching sportsmanship, and that type of thing. The older groups gets a little different. Mm-hmm. I mean, as an official, I mean, we in the clinics that we run, we certainly are going to tell our guys that are doing college games mm-hmm. that these coaches, this is their livelihood. You've got to do, I'm not going to say a better job, but
you do. It's okay to say it. You have to do a better job at college. But what about, let's say, for example, Mike,
it comes down.
Yeah, well, these sugar gliders, these amazing 5th grade girls that I help coach along with Coach Stacy and Coach Mark, who I didn't give props to as I was giving the team their props. We have a regular league that we play in, and last weekend we played in this tournament. We coached a little differently.
Sure.
There's something to be said and you don't coach unless you love kids. And you want every kid to be completely happy with playing time and their ability to score and their level of play. No one is stupid enough to know that's ever going to happen. Having said that, we did allude, if not come out and say to the parents, this is a tournament. We are going to be playing to win. We're still going to try to get kids in. But we kind of said it up front, this is going to be different. And no one really complained about it.
Absolutely.
But we did change our MO based on it being a tournament. Is there anything wrong with that?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think that...
By the way,
sure.
If my wife is listening, score 1 for Coach Tony, Mrs. Coach Tony 0. Please continue, Steve.
I mean, Park and Rec sports, mm-hmm. they are, everybody's paid to play. Mm-hmm. But in that,
everyone has paid to play. It made you sound like everyone's being paid to play.
No.
I mean, we're good. We ain't that good.
Right. But, in the same breath, travel teams mm-hmm. have paid to be on the team as well. Mm-hmm. Paid for their uniforms, paid for the coaching, paid for the whatever else is that they have to pay for. Mm-hmm. And those numbers have grown up, and up. I mean, my daughters are 22 and 26. I remember what I paid early on. And towards the tail end of their playing time, the numbers got crazy.
Yeah.
But it's a difference. They should know that coming in when they're going to a elite travel team, mm-hmm. that their kid may not be good enough to be playing very much, and they'll play in games where they can, mm-hmm. and that's coach's decision. I also think that different coaching styles have different avenues to that, mm-hmm. and parents should know that coming in as well. So the basic answer is yes. I mean, coaching would be different. All of those things would be very different.
Okay, well, that's needless to say, I agree with you because that's
sorry, Miss Coach Tony.
No, sorry, Miss Coach Tony, because without knowing it before this hour is over, you're going to help me shred my wife to pieces and I'll get to that in a minute. When we get back, I'm going to ask the most important question to our friend here, Steve Kolitz. But before we go to break, folks, we at the Hey Coach Tony Show are very proud to announce that this year we're working in conjunction with the Boomer Esiason Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. We are sponsoring a runner in the New York City Half Marathon. Several supporters and sponsors of the show have stepped up to help us. In return for their support, I want to give them a little well-deserved recognition. If you want to help us with a small donation, email me for more information. You can email me at heycoachtony@gmail.com. So far, we want to say thank you to our friends at Sono Fieldhouse, our good buddies at sportsignup.com, whatever you're doing to administer your league, go to sportssignup.com. There's a ton of information. They'll help you organize your officials, get your coaches, your volunteers, not to mention your rosters. It's just your fundraising, soup to nuts. Also, if you're anywhere near the Riverside section of Greenwich and you're in the mood for some terrific Italian, then look no further than our good friends at Pomodoro Restaurant, right off the exit there in Riverside of Greenwich. And you know what? We want to give also a big thank you to the folks at the Outdoor Sports Center of Wilton, Connecticut, fulfilling all your outdoor needs for decades. And of course, if you look out your window, it is snowing. I could not be happier for our friends over at Catamount Ski Area. They always chip in. They're helping to sponsor our runner. Located in the Berkshires, Catamount equals winter skiing fun for the whole family. Again, you want to learn more about how you can chip in and help our runner and do something for a good cause with the Boomer Esiason Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, just email me at heycoachtony@gmail.com. Please give what you can. You're listening to Hey Coach Tony. Stick around. I'll be right back.
Coach Tony.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're with Hey Coach Tony, this and every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Want to remind you that beginning, I believe the date is February 25th. We're coming down to the wire. Every Saturday at 9, you will be able to see the Hey Coach Tony show simulcast live on CPTV Sports throughout the great state of Connecticut. We want to say thank you to our friends at CPTV Sports for their support. We're joined in studio this morning by Steve Kolitz, who is a very well-respected official in several sports. He does baseball, he does softball, he does basketball. And today Steve is playing therapist because I went through a bit of a rough go last weekend, and some of it, believe it or not, resulted in me. See, I tell people I had an argument with a referee, and I didn't. It wasn't one of those confrontational things, but I certainly had words with a referee. Steve was talking to us before the break about how parents should never change their behavior based on the level of competitive nature of that game, that day, that week, that tournament, whatever. We did agree, however, that coaches can, and in many cases should, change, or at least are justified in changing their coaching MO based on it being a championship game or a tournament. The real question, the $99,000 answer, as Ralph Cramden would say it is it, what's your thought on an official changing the way they officiate based on the specifics of a game? I'm going to start with the general and then I'm going to get more specific. What's your thought on, should the official change based on the competitive nature of that game?
Through the game, no.
Why?
Well, because you can't change the scenario. You can't change how you're calling that game. I mean, we talked a little bit during the break, I think, of calling a game, basically two fundamental ways of calling a game. Call it tight at the beginning and let it go if you can, or let it go at the beginning and tighten it if you have to. I'm certainly a believer in calling it as tight as you're going to for the level from the get-go, and ease it up if you can, but that way you can always come back to as tight as you were.
Sure.
You know, and the coaches, players will adjust to it. I mean, from varsity level to kids. I mean, the kids won't adjust as much. You know, the younger kids, I mean, they're playing the level that they know how to play.
Yeah.
A coach at a high school level will certainly know, see a ref's calling a game very tight and tell them to adjust it. Like we talked about, I think, during baseball, softball. The first couple innings, a couple of grunts and groans about, the way you're calling balls and strikes, as long as you're consistent, is happy. Same thing in basketball. We should be calling a game consistently the same from the beginning of the game through the end of the game. And my opinion is fairly tight. Does that change based on the quality?
But that's a style
Absolutely.
that's a style of officiating. There are refs that are tight, and there are refs that will let kids bang in a basketball game. That's a style thing, and I think most coaches get that if you get used to what the ref is doing from the get-go.
But there's a difference in the age levels as too.
Yep.
And the floor quality. I mean, there are floors that are slippery. There are floor. You're not going to call as many travels on a slide than you will them taking jump steps.
Wait, now I got to stop you because you just said jump step, and let me now explain why my blood boiled last weekend. Like I said, the fifth grade girls, the Sugar Gliders, who we wound up winning the whole tournament, I know I said that more than once, were involved in the championship game. And I will tell you, our bracket, with the exception of one team, very competitive bracket. Matter of fact, in that bracket, our girls lost their very first game of the season. We thought we were going to have an actual undefeated season. Now, am I glad they lost a game? Yes, because they rebounded. But the point is, we muddled to get to the championship game. We were halfway surprised we got to the championship game. So there's a level of, hey, we came here to win. We wrote our check because we want to win. Let's go do this. Not even halfway through these 7-minute quarters, the fifth grade girls, not even halfway through the first quarter, we're noticing a lot of bad calls and what seemed to be lopsided.
Not
calls.
home jobs.
Well, it wasn't home because I believe the team was. It was not. Neither home team was in the finals. But the point was, we were winning by maybe 8, which is not a huge margin. But we started noticing a lot of what I would call bad calls. Not, oh, if you're going to call those fouls, we're going to have a long day. Not that kind of thing. There were just some bad, basic calls.
Both ways or one way?
Good question, Steve. One way.
Okay.
One way.
Your perception.
No, because I have a feeling you just said one. My perception. The phone lines are about to light up at 855 Hey Coach in support of what I'm about to say. It's 855-439-2622. But this culminated in what I can honestly say in fifth grade girls basketball, the worst call I ever saw. It really was. And my wife managed to get a picture of my reaction to the call, and it is hysterical. I'm going to try to put it up on HeyCoachTony.com today. But you won't believe this girl picked up her dribble, traveled, then did the jump step. And I am not exaggerating. So finally I said to myself, something is up. Because
by the way, it's a jump stop. The step is a different story.
No, but traveled, but then jumped with the ball in her hand, as if to shoot, and then whoops, I'm not going to shoot. I mean, it was that dramatic.
Okay.
There was not a soul in the gym, with the exception of the ref, that did not call the travel, that knew that was a blatant travel. Bottom line, so I'm not the head coach of this team. So at that point,
that's a key point.
That's a very key point. At that point, I mean, listen, your gut reaction is you yell out something. It's like, come on. I mean, that is a travel. And in the gyms, it's always tougher because it's a contained area. But I went to my head coach, to Coach Stacy, and I said, you need to call a timeout, and you need to have a conversation with this guy, find out what's up. Because something was clearly up. I don't know how else to say this, and here's where I want your reaction as a ref. Any other refs that are listening in, please call the studio at 855-HEY-COACH. It's 855-439-2622. My coach, yeah, here they come. Okay. Oh, Mrs. Hey Coach Tony? All right, we're going to hold off on that. We're going to keep her on hold. She's just pissed.
That's not a good idea.
All right. Yeah, exactly. But she doesn't want to call when my blood's boiling. So, Mrs. Hey Coach Tony, hang on. He goes to the ref, and he basically says, that was a very blatant travel. What's going on? And the ref's response was, you guys are winning by a lot. I am going to ref to the score. This is a championship game in a tournament where we paid our $500, whatever the heck that number was, and it's a championship game. All the teams entered to win. So I'm not going to lead you down the path too much more. What do you make of that situation and that the ref said, I'm reffing to the score?
My gut reaction is one of saying, I'd have never said that.
That was the first thing that came out of my mouth. I was shocked. That's
right.
Like when Jack Nicholson says, you're damn right I gave the order. Everyone was like, why'd you say that? You didn't have to.
Right.
Even if you were thinking it, I can't believe the guy said it.
Yeah, we've had, there's certainly, we had one last night in one of the games, not that I did, that I alluded to earlier, said earlier that I was watching the tail end of because of the guys that I had reffing it. Sometimes the things we say are worse than what they were. That's a case typically of why would you say that? Even though am I condoning doing it? No. Am I saying that I've never done it? No. We want the clock to run in a game that's not going to change. The outcome's not going to change.
Remember, this is halfway through the first quarter.
Right.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying.
Not in the first quarter.
I want you to finish your point because I'm going to play dumb coach and I'm going to give you my response. Go ahead.
Fourth quarter, a different story. First quarter, you don't know what the outcome's going to be in that game. Mm-hmm. An 11-point game, I've seen it happen. I did a middle school game several years ago that the team was down by, I want to say, 14 or 15 points in the third quarter. Our gut as officials were that, they ain't coming back. Mm-hmm. We went double overtime.
Now, what if you had given one basket? One call would have given a basket to the team that was losing at that point. That affects the outcome of a game.
Certainly. We as officials, we make we're trained. Mm-hmm. We go to classes. We do these things that we're supposed to do and call the games we're supposed to call. Are there times we're going to, we're four eyes watching 20 arms, 20 legs, 10 bodies, and listening to everybody? It's a difficult job. Basketball, to me, is the hardest, and referees from all these other sports will come out and go crazy over this. But, to me, basketball is the toughest game. It's confined. It's small. Everything's tight. It's just tough because of all of that. I mean, I did a championship game in a tournament a few years ago that the parents were just the whole group. My partner was administering a technical foul. He's over by the table doing what he's supposed to do. And the parents, I don't know if they were being very unsporting towards my partner, towards the coach of the team that was technical. I don't know who they were going nuts on, but they were, as a group, in mass, going nuts. I looked at them and I said, that's enough. If you want to watch your children play in this game, that's enough. I will clear the gym. And I looked at the director of the tournament and I said, and I mean it. And he looked at me and said, Steve, I know you do. Because I wouldn't take the game away from the kids. They were fine.
And by the way, one thing I will give credit to us as coaches for, because I will tell you, the three of us, somebody jokes and says we are three alpha males all trying to coexist as coaches, which is tough to do. And we are loud. But I will tell you, the one thing the ref did accomplish at that point, as much as I vehemently disagree with what he did and what he said, at that point we knew what he was doing. So we told all our girls, don't complain about calls. We stopped complaining about calls, and we used it as a motivating tool. We told the kids, you're going to get calls against you now. Concentrate, play as clean as you can, as crisp as you can, and understand it's going to happen. If you travel, we're not mad at you. We know. All right, listen, we got the phone lines are starting to light up. Mrs. Hey, Coach Tony is waiting. Coach Stacy's calling in now. I want to go to a quick break before we get to your calls, but we will get to your calls. The numbers, again, here in the studio is 855-HEY-COACH. It's 855-439-2622. But before we get to your calls, we got to go to a break. You're listening to Hey, Coach Tony. Stick around. I'll be right back.
Coach Tony.
Hey, Coach Tony on ESPN Radio this Saturday morning. Quick reminder, we're on every Saturday morning at 9. You can listen to us live online at heycoachtony.com. And beginning late February, live on CPTV Sports out of Hartford. So the rest of the state's going to get some wholesome Hey, Coach Tony goodness relatively soon. All right, I'm joined in studio this morning by Steve Kolitz. Newsflash from Dan over in the booth that Mrs. Hey, Coach Tony chickened out and hung up the phone. Either she knew she was getting shredded, or she's giving me the old, I'm not waiting for you, you bozo, and she hung up the phone. So I tell you what, Mrs. Hey, Coach Tony, if you choose to get the bone out of your head, stick it in your back, and you want to call the studio again, I'll remind you the number is 855-HEY-COACH. But we will get to some of your calls now. In fact, I know that Coach Stacy has been patiently waiting on the line. So we're going to go to Coach Stacy. Hey, good morning. You're on Hey, Coach Tony. How we doing?
Good, Coach. How you doing, Tony?
I am great. So did I do a decent job of describing that situation there, Coach?
You actually did a very good job. And the other thing that I want to highlight is at the beginning of the game, if you recall, you talked about adjusting our coaching style to win the tournament and everything. The other thing that we did was we got the girls together and we talked to them about wanting to coach to win the game and wanting to play to win the game. So whether or not they really wanted to win the tournament, and it was very clear that no matter what the playing time or how it was going to play out, they wanted to win the tournament. So I think that goes a long way whenever you're setting those expectations at the beginning of the game, whether you're the coach, whether you're the ref, talking to the teams of how they're going to call it. And so expectations setting goes a very long way in terms of being clear on what you're expecting and how to play out.
Yeah, and I failed to mention that, and that was actually one of the things that you typically don't see a coach do, and I give you credit for that, because what you did is you made sure the kids bought in. It wasn't about three alpha males who wanted a trophy. It was about girls, this is what we're thinking, are you on board with it? And without exception, they all wanted to win. Now, having said that, we did get all the girls playing time. We did wind up building a comfortable lead. We did wind up winning the game. But, Stacey, I got to ask you, what was your initial reaction when the referee said, I am reffing to the score, and it was the first quarter?
I think he was holding you back.
The initial reaction whenever he said that, I was taken aback much like yourself. And I was like, okay, well, let me see how bad it's going to be. And I think there were, whenever we called the timeout after 3 egregious, non-calls for us, and if you remember, I called timeout, and I didn't even pull the girls to the side. I went straight to the referee to reset what those expectations were. So I was understanding exactly where his mindset was, so I could come back to our girls and then use that as a motivating factor to say, look, this is not going to be given to us. Again, setting their expectations like, look, we understand you're not getting the calls. It's not us. Don't let them take the game away from us, and just play as clean of a basketball game as you can, and everything will be okay. We're not going to let them take the game from us.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Coach, it was a great job. I think it was very well managed given some really tough circumstances. If you heard me giggle, apparently Mrs. Hey, Coach Tony took some offense to what I said, so I'm going to have to let you go, Coach Stacy. Thanks, as always, for calling the show. It's great to talk to you. We will hesitantly now go to Mrs. Hey, Coach Tony. Hey, sweetheart, you're on Hey, Coach Tony. How we doing? She's not back, I guess. All right, when she gets back, Dan, you just jump on the mic and let me know when she's back. I don't know if she's got the jitters again, but in any event, Oops. Well, listen, dude, you just make sure you tell her you hung up on her, not me, all right? So anyway.
It was my bad this time.
Oh, it was your bad? Okay, so she's going to dial back in a second, but I'm going to start telling the story. Yeah. We get in the car after winning this tournament, and we're all actually flying high. We're on the way to taking the girls to a celebratory late lunch at a really nice place. We're just taking over the restaurant. We're all geared up. And my wife has this look on her face like, you jerk.
Never seen that before.
Yeah, I'm like, well, what? And her first thought was, I think what you did was so inappropriate. You should never have, been complaining about the calls when, what he did was right. These are 5th grade girls, and it's not necessarily about winning. And all the nonsense that you'd think you would hear from anybody that doesn't really have a good idea of what's going on, who doesn't understand that it is a competitive situation. But so we started having an argument. And my thought was, I was saying all the things that all the guys are listening to and saying, yep, makes sense. You are playing to win. This is a championship game. These girls deserve the right to win. And we were getting upset because these kids were getting cheated. In essence, they were being cheated. And if they had lost, it would have been a real shame that a group of young girls were getting something taken away from them. She went so far as to say, I'm sure you upset quite a few of the parents. Well, you know what? I may have upset some parents. But guess what? Any coach who's listening who's never upset a parent, call in, and I'll give you lifetime passes to Catamount. Because guess what I tell every coach who's ever coached anything in their lives? If you coach to try to please every parent, the only thing you're assured of doing is, at some level, pissing off every parent. As long as your expectations are set up front with what you're doing, how you're doing it, why you're doing it, they really don't have a right to be upset. Now, they will still be upset.
Absolutely.
And the girl who got the least amount of playing time is going to be upset. I mean, the parent's going to be upset. But the point was, we did nothing wrong. And I found myself defending myself to my wife in such a way that it became an argument. And I'm like, why am I having to deal with this?
In years past, I haven't always been an official.
Mm-hmm.
I did coach. I coached my older daughter coming up through basketball. I coached my younger daughter growing up in soccer, which, by the way, I know nothing about. I played water polo in high school out in California. I put my concepts of water polo to soccer field.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times. My younger daughter, 1 year before I was coaching the team, was on a team that she wasn't playing.
Mm-hmm.
They'd won the year before. They moved up to Division I or whatever the heck it was, and she wasn't playing.
Mm-hmm.
And other parents were coming to me and saying, "Why isn't Brenna playing?" And I didn't know. What could I say? I was frustrated. I talked to the coach a couple times after games. And it was one of those where the coach said something about, I'm trying to get her in. I said, well, wait a minute. There's ways to get them in rather than try to get them in. They can start a half. They can, do whatever. Not to say the quality of my daughter's play and stuff. She certainly deserved some time on the field and so on. But as a coach, those are conscious decisions at the levels that you coach that you ask for parent buy-in, not financial buy-in, but conceptual buy-in. And again, that's part of that concept. As a coach, you got to make a decision. Are we in this to win, or are we in this to teach the sport? Mm-hmm. And, I had a concept with where they played every position, mm-hmm. because who knew if you found a good goalie that never played goalie before.
Absolutely.
Or a striker, or whatever positions mm-hmm. you want to call it. You got to do those things at those younger levels. A kid that's, 7'2" isn't going to be your guard in most cases, in basketball.
And what also, and just to stick with the hoops thing, and there's some, the George Dorman's book highlighted a kid who was she's back? All right.
Drop everything.
I better drop everything, otherwise I'm going to be sleeping on the couch this weekend. So, without any further ado, we would like to welcome to the show as a first-time caller, long-time listener, Mrs. Hey Coach Tony. All right. Are you on the phone?
You or me?
No, she wants to yell at me,
Can you hear
me?
Yeah,
I can hear you fine. What's on your mind there, sweetheart?
Okay, first of all, I did not hang up. I didn't have a back phone.
Okay.
Let's start with that.
Okay.
I just want to say I think the girls did a wonderful job. It was a wonderful tournament. We're very proud of them. My only point was when the referee made that general comment, I sort of could have seen his point, because you have to keep it in perspective.
No, you don't.
Fifth-grade girls. It was a local tournament. The referee just wanted all the girls to have fun and to play. So I didn't understand why you were so upset about it. That was my only point in the whole entire thing.
I now have support. I'm going to shut up and let a
first
fellow...
of all, you're not winning.
All right, well, listen, I'm going to let a fellow dad, coach, referee chime in now to make my point for me. This is going to be the highlight of my day. Go ahead, Steve.
Let me start with a question for you.
Yes.
Did you play sports?
No.
Oh, now, dude, without knowing it, you just hit the height of the argument. Go ahead.
It's the easiest answer that I can give you for that is...
But let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Did you ever referee a game and they're younger kids and you see that one team is really so much dominant from the other team and you sort of say, you know what? Let's play the score. Let's have everyone have fun. Let everyone enjoy the experience.
I've gone to games where, I've refereed games where the score was like 79-10, and it's not fun for anybody. The team, that's a clear-cut case where you will referee very differently for one team than another, and I'm harder on that team that's winning 79, by 60 points because of the fact they're not pulling back the reins to say, let's make this a little fun for everybody. And there are learning, there are life lessons in those games. There are coaching lessons in those games. There are playing lessons in those games. When I've coached, one of the things that I used to do, if we had a game where we were either up by a lot or down by a lot, let's work on, everybody must touch the ball. Before anybody shoots, 5 different people on the court must touch the ball.
And we have calls like that for our 5th grade girls. And like I said, This was an 8-point game in the first quarter when this happened. Now, honey, do you want to stick around? I got to go to break.
We were so skilled. We beat them the night before.
Okay, and that team
so much better than them. My point was, I just turned around and looked at those girls, and then when the referee said that, I said I could kind of see his point.
And I'm not saying you could.
That was the only thing I was saying.
The key word is that he shouldn't have said it.
Yeah, first of all, he should have never said it. He shouldn't have thought it. Shouldn't have done it. Doesn't mean I can't
take the win.
Why.
She said she.
No. You don't obviously live in our house. This isn't done. Honey, can you stick around for a couple minutes? I got to go to a break, but I want to continue this. Can you stick around?
Okay.
All right. So listen, when we get back, we will talk about the culmination of this ride home and what I said that took Mrs. Hey Coach Tony and turned her into, holy Jesus, look out, it's about to happen. So you're with Hey Coach Tony. Stick around. I'll be right back.
Coach Tony.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're with Hey Coach Tony every Saturday, 9 a.m., joined in studio today by Steve Kolitz, who did not realize part of his responsibilities today were going to be to act as marriage counselor because we have with us Mrs. Hey Coach Tony on the line. And the reason I wanted you to stick around, sweetheart, is because if you remember, and I know you do, our little argument culminated and then escalated into a full-blown... Yeah, let's just say it turned into a full-blown fight when I pointed out, listen, here's what's happening. It finally got to the point where I try to say something nice, and it just came out as wrong can be, and every husband has done this, but we were basically getting nowhere. So I thought for a second, I figured it out, and I finally said to my lovely wife, sweetheart, given your lack of sports experience, I can understand why you feel that way. Now, right now, the truly stupid men who are listening are thinking to themselves, wow, what a thoughtful and understanding guy you are, Coach Tony. You figured it out, and you calmly explained to your wife that you understand her feelings, and more importantly, understand...
That's the word, calmly.
Calmly. I was calm, and you understand why she feels that way. At the same time, the truly intelligent men, like our friend Steve here, they're shaking their heads going, wow, that was dumb, and I know how this is going to end.
By the way, I have one philosophy that says women cry, men yell.
But I didn't yell. I got to tell you.
I love that philosophy.
Did I yell in the car, hon? Did I yell in the car?
Define yelling.
See, that's
the term.
Typical woman answer.
Exactly.
You know, I'm going to hang up on you in 2 seconds. The point is, the women in the audience are going, this guy's just a jerk. My point was this, and please take this for what it is, sweetheart. I hope that a decent amount of my audience are clueless women like yourself who have no background in sports. I mean, that is really what it comes down to.
You have to come home to me.
Now, listen, I didn't say I didn't love you. I didn't say you don't cook the hell out of some linguine, baby. I'm just saying you have no clue when it comes to sports. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's not because you're stupid. You just don't have any background. That's like, that's like me going into the vet's office.
Okay,
I'm just
gonna end it here. I'm gonna say, okay, fine. I get your point. I didn't play sports. It was just my opinion.
Yes,
it was just I looked around and I kind of got what he was looking at, and I kind of saw what the girls might have been feeling.
Yes,
that was the extent
I think we all agree with
my
that.
comment.
We all can understand that, honey. But
okay, then we're all in agreement. Therefore, I win.
Yes, you're wrong.
Okay.
You're wrong, and you're wrong. Hang up on her. She's wrong. Hang up, Dan. You got her? Okay, good. Wow, that was. Is she still on the line? Dan, get rid of this crazy chick. All right, thank you. All right. So, by the way, sweetheart, thank you for calling. Dan, good job, by the way. Good job. Yeah, I think you kept me in good graces there. That was good. Now, I know we got some more. We by the way, we got an email. I'm going to just go to a quick email from Chris. I'm going to read that in just a second. But before we go to Chris's email, I know we got some more calls here. In fact, Coach Mark is on the line who wants to chime in on this. Hey, Coach Mark, you're on. Hey, Coach Tony, how you doing this morning?
He's doing well.
I guess Coach Mark's wife hung up the phone on him.
Want to wait?
You know what, dude, if we were on like a real radio station, you'd be like on hold for 25 minutes. All right, anyway.
That guy was pretty monotone.
Yeah, I know. No emotion out of Coach Mark. But I tell you what, I got an email here from Chris. Shortest email I ever got. Hey, Coach Tony, welcome to my nightmare with the wife. Congrats to the Sugar Gliders on a great tournament. And you know what? That's the funny part. This is turning into a different show, and I wish I had another hour to do this because this is every sport. If you're a sports dad and you're married to a non-sports mom, this is your nightmare. Every time you leave the house for a tournament, that's a weekend tournament, you're going to have a fight on Sunday night because you didn't spend time with the family. If you talk about how you were a little bit harder on your own kid because you know what they can take and you know they're better, oh, let me give him a hug, let me give him a kiss. When you're coaching to win, I don't see why all the girls just can't have fun. And by the way, Mima, I know you're still listening. Here's another stupid thing you said. How much fun is it for the girls that are getting calls against them? How much fun is it knowing that, hey, we want to win and someone's trying to get it on a level playing field? Steve, quick question for you. Is it the ref's job to make it a fair scoring game?
By the way you're saying it, no.
Yes, and I know fair is a tough word to use.
Right. We're there to call fouls and violations and not control the game. I mean,
a better question. Is it the ref's job to make it a close game?
No, absolutely.
Matter of fact, it's illegal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not even really your burden to make it a fair game, but in the truest sense it is. That's really the burden of the collective coaches. In other words, if we were blowing the team out by 20 in the first quarter, it would be incumbent upon us coaches, the three of us alpha males, to say, pull back the reins, or, as I've said this on the show before, go to the other coach, say, you know what, coach, here's what I'd like to do. Championship game, maybe not, but I would say, Steve, listen, we're going to blow you out. Why don't we agree we've won this game? So we get our win. I can feel good. Don't tell the kids, but I'm going to pull all my starters, and they won't see the floor again. So you guys might even win the game score-wise, and I want your kids to feel good about that, but we'll take the win. Now, you as a coach may say, no thanks, but thanks for saying it, in which case, then it's no holds barred. But, it's not the ref's job for the team in the lead to pull back the reins. That's a coach's job.
Absolutely. When I coached, we did those things.
Yeah.
making the kids, like I said, all of them touch the ball, run your plays, those types. There's lessons to be learned during that game. I don't care what the score is, win or lose. As an official, we will, in a blowout, call things differently because a team is not pulling back the reins. Will we say that? I don't think so.
Not like that idiot who did it. I wish I knew his name because I'd say it.
I just did, but
Well, yeah, okay, but by the way, you talk about pulling back the reins, and I want to say this, and I want to say it loud and clear. Do I think we were far and away the best team in that tournament? No, I don't. Can you argue we were? Absolutely.
That day, that game,
we were, and we deserved to win the championship. Let me talk to you about pulling back the reins if you are a competitive coach. And here's where I give a ton of credit to the guy who was coaching the Norwalk team, the Connecticut team, because that's the team that beat us. And I tell you, I looked at that team, and I said, they're really good. And when we lost that game, I told our girls, I'm glad we lost. We were calm during the game. Sometimes you get outplayed. And I told the girls, the good news is we got outplayed in the first half, but we played very well in the second half, and we made it very respectable. I think we only lost by 4 points or something like that. But that team was good. That team did not make the championship game. I think there were 3 teams that were 3-1 in our bracket. We were one of them. Here's what I think happened. The host team was not very good. They just weren't. And even with our substitutes in, we kind of blew them out. What it came down to, as you know as a tournament director, if there are 3 teams tied for 2 more spots, what do you go to? Point differential. Turns out, I believe, it's not confirmed, but hear me out, coaches, for sake of this argument. The team that was, in my opinion, right up there with us as the best team in this tournament played the worst team. And they had a lot of girls, and they had some subpar girls. I believe they pulled their starters, let those girls get playing time, which was a very, very valiant effort on their part, and a good thing to do. But they only beat the host team by like 3 points. And that was the reason they didn't get to the championship game. So guess what? You don't think, and I'm projecting, so I'm not saying this is the case, but you can imagine there are teams where the parents would go calling for the coach's head because he appeased the girls who don't get much more playing time, and because of that they didn't even get to the championship game, much less win it. If the Norwalk coach is listening, if that's what happened, kudos, because that's a pretty big statement.
That's why I don't necessarily like differential as much as I like points allowed.
Baseball is moving a lot more to points allowed. That is a big one, because then you can say we won't score anymore. We'll only win by 2, but we're going to shut you guys out the second half.
Right.
As long as somebody's not running up the score on me, I'm always good with it. Oh, Mark's back? Okay, well, we got a couple of minutes. So, you know what, before we get too far down the path, I want to give Mark his say. Hey, Coach Mark, good morning. You with Hey Coach Tony. How we doing?
Hey, Coach. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. So what do you make of all this?
Well, I'm going to have to say, Coach, I don't agree with Mrs. Coach Tony today.
Shocker. Why? Because you got a brain in your head?
You played sports, didn't you?
Well, I'm sure Mrs. Coach Tony is a very beautiful woman.
She's a
knockout. I understand she's an excellent photographer.
Cook, too, it sounds like.
When you're talking about a travel tournament, 5th grade, we're not talking about 1st or 2nd graders, 1st or 2nd grade girls or boys in town with a parent that's jumping in to officiate. We're talking about 5th grade travel basketball, 5th grade through 8th grade. Mm-hmm. And it's a big tournament. It's a 4-day-week tournament. I really believe the girls are there. They're working very hard, and it's okay to win. As far as her position about the girls having fun and everybody should play, I agree with all that, especially in in-town rec and even the regular season of travel. But with travel, the idea is it's more competitive. The best players are on the field or on the court, and it's okay to win.
It's not even okay for a lot of them, and I would say on this particular team, and tell me if you disagree, I'd say 80% of the kids that are there happen to have a really competitive streak, and they do want to win. It doesn't mean that some of them would rather play more than win, because I know that's the way kids are wired. But, listen, this group of girls, Steve, from A to Z, they're all going to be knockouts. I mean, they're beautiful, beautiful girls. If you dress them up, you would say, wow, those are the prissy girls who don't play sports. When they get on the court or on the field, they are bloodthirsty animals, like nothing I've ever seen with young kids.
That's the nature of travel.
Yeah, I would say.
It's the nature of travel basketball or travel sports.
Yeah, it's a rare crop of really specially talented girls, and it's more than 80%, Coach. With this team, they're ferocious animals when it comes to getting on the field. And if you notice, when they started their game, they go to the other teammates, shake their hands, and to the refs. So we're imparting great sportsmanship, and it's all about teaching them and imparting life lessons, working hard, playing. Yeah, every kid should touch the ball. With a travel tournament especially, let's go out and win it. And that's what they did.
Tournament's a tournament. That's why it's a tournament.
Mark, great way to end the show, man. I appreciate the call, as always.
Hey, by the way, Coach,
yes.
With this snow, you better bring Mrs. Coach Tony some roses and some hot soup so she doesn't lock you out.
By the way, it was fun. I mean, it's good to hear that you also didn't make her cook that night.
Oh, she cooked.
Yeah.
She cooked, and she served me on the couch while I was watching football. How's that? Try calling now, Miss A. Coach Tony. Hey, listen, thanks for listening as always, guys. Every Saturday, 9 a.m. Enjoy the snow. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.